Welcome to Waking Up America, the Not Morning Show. Today's news, new revelations have come to light regarding the Kari Lake Trial that may just swing things in our favor. Let's go ahead and talk about this while we still can. If you guys would like to support this content, please follow us on Twitter at America Wake Up. Greatly appreciate that. As well, before we get into the news here, if you would like to support us financially, please consider going over to buymeacoffee.com/wakeup. You guys can donate cups of coffee there or subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. It all goes into funding this podcast. Okay, straight into the news here. If you're not aware, Katie Hobbs has certified her election. She certified it herself. Not only did she certify it herself, she certified it in a private chamber with no one around except 5 people that she chose, which is Superintendent of Public Instruction, mine inspector, treasurer, Secretary of State, and Attorney General, and 1 AP reporter. It gets worse though. She streamed this to Facebook. Okay, this article over here from Arizona Central, they're kind of moderate. She says, and they're kind of questioning Hobbs' decision here. The fact that it was live streamed on Facebook isn't good enough for transparency. It's a very bad look, especially when you look at the live viewership on the Facebook Live for it. It had 254 live viewers. You want to tell me the governor that won Arizona had 254 viewers for her swearing in ceremony and that she legitimately won this election? All right, if you want to go that route, we'll see what happens. Okay, further into this story, there has been really big bombshells coming out on Kari Lake here, and great information for her case moving forwards. Article here from the Western Journal. Kari Lake is not done fighting yet and gives important update on her election challenge. First things first, Kari Lake confirmed Wednesday night that her election challenge will first go to the Arizona Court of Appeals before going on to the state Supreme Court. So what does this mean? This means that she essentially gets another shot in addition to the Arizona Supreme Court and in addition to the Supreme Court if it goes that far. Hopefully the Court of Appeals votes correctly. We'll see what happens. I'm not so sure, but if they vote in her favor, there will hopefully be a new election, or at the very least the election would be overturned. Again, we'll see what happens here. I don't know if I'm holding out for the Arizona Court of Appeals because it is a lot of pressure to put on your shoulders. This may have to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Put yourselves in these judges' shoes. More than likely they are just spineless, but whoever sides with Kari Lake here is putting that target on their back from the left. The left is inherently violent and they will attack her for this. Okay, so Kari Lake stated that her court case will be going before the appeals court prior to the Arizona Supreme Court because it has already been scheduled for review. And there is some huge news for this. Quick update here as well. The oral arguments will be on January 24th. So we have more than a couple weeks here before we'll have any major movement on this. But that is okay. And why is that okay? Because there has been a bombshell historical precedent. In 1916, there was an election very similar to this that was overturned. Now, that's the good news. That sets precedent and allows the judge to look at that historical precedent and say, okay, this has happened in the past. We can do this. Now, the bad news is you might have to wait a while. In 1916, when the courts weren't jammed up like they are today, it took them an entire year to strip the loser from power. And they did exactly that. They literally stripped the loser of power, kicked him out of office, and put the winner in. So we'll see what happens with that. Continuing into more good news here, actually. Surprisingly, I know, 2023, great year. The fire it rises. Lake's legal team filed a petition on Sunday with the state Supreme Court seeking to bypass the appeals court. And the candidate's appeal includes all 10 counts that were in her original complaint. So this is huge. If this case goes forward with the 10 counts, as opposed to what the first judge threw out, he threw out about 80% of her case, completely unjustified, mind you. Most of them are backed up with evidence. The fact that she's putting this appeal forwards, if it gets accepted, would be huge for her case. That is a slam dunk with the legal precedent being set over in, I believe it was Georgia, where they overturned the election there and issued a complete re-election over, I think it was like 10 votes that were missing in this local vote. With that, you have the legal precedent, you have the historical precedent, and if she gets all 10 counts in there, this is going to be a bombshell case. So continuing on here, the GOP candidate's attorney wrote that the evidence put forward at trial proved that Maricopa County officials caused chaos arising at nearly 2/3 of Maricopa County's 223 vote centers on election day, and admitted after first denying the illegally misconfigured ballots were injected into the election, causing tabulators to reject tens of thousands of ballots, disproportionately targeting Republican voters. And in the case, if you watched it, a cybersecurity expert testified at trial last month that the change in the printer settings that set them from 18-inch to 19 ballots could not have been accidental. That is in court record. So that is going to the appeals court. That is going to the Supreme Court. Now, if you're not a biased judge and you're not afraid, you cannot overlook that statement. It would be essentially fraud or corruption. Lake argued that since Republicans voted 3-1 over Democrats on election day, what happened was a large-scale voter suppression of her supporters. We know that Republicans tend to vote more in person on election day, so the numbers are just not adding up here. Lake's legal team also said that the total number of ballots the county reported in the election increased by nearly 25,000 from November 9th, the day after the actual election, to November 11th. So they just miraculously found 25,000 more votes. That number is very, very significant here because Hobbs had only a 17,000 vote lead over Kari Lake. So if you were to just get rid of those 25,000 votes that were illegally entered into this election, Kari Lake wins. She has several fronts here. If she gets in this, all parts of her case, all 10 parts, she has several avenues to win here. That has me a little bit optimistic. I was a little bit pessimistic at first, but I mean, if this goes to a higher court and they actually examine the full case, this is very, very good news. So Lake's attorney further wrote in their petition to the state Supreme Court that Maricopa officials, quote, allowed tens of thousands of ballots with voter signatures which clearly did not match the record signature and were not properly cured to be counted in the 2022 general election. Now, what this means, if they strike it out on this one, that the ballots that were not cured, so they were not accurately cured to match the signatures between the ballots, that puts her within that 0.5% automatic recount. So there would be a recount on this at the very least. More than likely, they would just go with the re-election. Probably an emergency election. Okay. Now it gets better for us, worse in the state of corruption here. Abraham Hamadi, who is running for, I believe, Attorney General in Arizona, Kari Lake posted this out that Pinal County discovered a 600 vote discrepancy during Abraham Hamadi's recount. So this was the recount for the Attorney General. It came down to the wire, and they found 600 votes that were just completely unaccounted for. Katie Hobbs intercepted this information and hid it from Abe and me while we were filing our lawsuits, and now we find out that their elections director was given a $25,000 bonus. Unbelievably corrupt, she states. What is important here? The fact that that Katie Hobbs obscured this information while they were making their case is another case for fraud that the judge can look at. You cannot look this on the face and say like, oh yeah, Katie Hobbs, definitely stand-up politician there. And to make things worse, the elections director who certified the election in Pinal County, she took $25,000 as a bonus after knowingly certifying the election there with the count being off, and then she left. She literally just left the state and went to Florida, and nobody can contact her. Nobody has seen her since. Okay, let's go ahead and hear from Kari Lake herself here. She has definitely some interesting information to give us on the process here.
Katie Hobbs was not duly elected. Everybody in the state knows that. And she can play house and play governor for a while, but eventually the truth is going to catch up and we will win. And, they will be exposed for what they've done to the people. This is, when you saw me on the campaign trail working hard, telling the people I would go and represent them. And that doesn't stop once they cheat and steal the election. I'm still working to make sure that every Arizonan's vote and voice is heard and counted. And we will make sure that happens. So we're very strong on the merits. We have the evidence on our side. They sabotaged Election Day, and then they did a whole bunch of other things. And the beauty of all this is the onion's getting unpeeled. It's getting peeled back. We saw this out of Wisconsin. I think it came out yesterday, the day before. Now we're finding out with Truth, 150,000 voter registrations went to invalid addresses that don't even exist.
Yeah,
we're finding out this Ruby Freeman sound that's coming out, where she's admitting to all kinds of fraudulent behavior in the Georgia elections. It's all starting to crumble down right now, and it's going to get out.
That is incredibly damning. All of this information that is coming out now with the corruption of these elections would not be coming out if not for Kari Lake's case here and all of these investigations that are going on. Again, I've said it 100 times. I'm glad she is fighting this fight. I don't know if she will win. I'm hopeful that she will. But at the very least, she is exposing the corruption. Arizona is a just complete mess when it comes to its elections. People need to be held accountable here. The government officials, they don't care. They're not going to do anything about it. I have this video from a government official in Pinal County who basically says, better luck next time. We know it's corrupt, but you know what? You're just going to have to wait until next time. We'll get it better next time. We promise. Go ahead and listen.
I really appreciate the fact that you're working hard to fix the errors and go through process, and I think next time we'll have a solid election. When we talk about errors, there was machine errors, human errors, and process errors. In your experience, have you identified other management errors that would have helped to make this election go smoother?
You know, again, I believe that the canvass was done prematurely. I think we had enough to have raised raised a few questions, and we should have taken more steps before we canvassed. We certainly had time.
Next time, we'll fix it. Don't worry, guys. There's nothing to see here. There's no corruption here. It's fine. Hey, just ignore it. It'll totally be fixed next time. This happened in 2020, but we're not going to talk about that. Okay. I want to go a little bit more into the Pinal elections director who got the $25,000 bonus after reporting the inaccurate results and helping to certify the election for Hobbs here. Back to the article. Pinal County's outgoing election director collected $25,000 bonus for running a smooth election despite reporting final results with significant inaccuracies, including around 500 uncounted votes in the neck-and-neck attorney general's race. So just 500 votes. It's fine. We don't need to count them. This week, the new elections director indicated that Ross, I believe her name is Virginia Ross, may not have taken steps after the election to ensure the results were accurate. Regardless, she collected the payment and left. A lot of people are saying this is a payoff. I don't know exactly what's going on in Arizona with election officials. That's a lot of freaking money. Pinal County's supervisor say that they learned about the uncounted votes only after they voted to certify the results. Again, this is huge news for Kari Lake's case. The fact that they certified this incorrectly with those uncounted votes sets the precedent for the judge that is going to rule on this to look at this and say, like, yeah, there's obviously something went wrong here. There are votes that were not counted. This is not a fair election. You can't have a vote where the votes are not counted. No judge in their right mind who has a spine will vote that way. Okay. Let's go and move on to a tweet here from Kari Lake's War Room, which is the direct respondent for the Kari Lake team. Posted on this, called it a banana republic. Please follow us on Twitter as well if you'd like to follow us at Waking America Up. As Republicans launched new legal strikes, Arizona's largest county says 4,849 ballots were not counted. Almost 5,000 ballots are still outstanding in Maricopa County. What a mess. The trust is broken. There must be a new election in Maricopa County. Like I said, she has several avenues to win this case, including the 5,000 votes in Maricopa County. If they were counted and they squeezed her below that 0.5%, That's an automatic recount. So why have these not been counted? That is well within her margin. That's ridiculous to me. And I hate to leave on a more dark pill note as far as Arizona goes, but unfortunately, it does appear that the shipping containers, which were put in place by your Republican governor, are currently being stripped and taken down. So, I mean, this does not look good for immigration. Accordingly, Border Patrol agents were not even informed that these were taken down. They just started dismantling them. So you are going to see your state overrun further. People will unfortunately die due to this act and removal of these. And if that doesn't make anything worse, it's going to cost Arizona over $70 million just to take these down, which is 100% coming out of your taxpayer dollars. Okay, I have one more story here for you guys. That is pretty much it for the update for Kari Lake. I will continue to keep you guys updated daily as best I can on the Kari Lake situation if there are notable updates. So be sure to subscribe, like, hit the Rumble button. Please head over to Rumble if you can. We're not really trying to grow on YouTube, but it seems to be growing faster. That last video was a big hit, so I appreciate all of you guys who subscribed. Greatly appreciate it. We're a small channel, I know, but I'm going to keep doing this regardless. Doesn't matter if I'm the only one watching anyway, but please head over to Rumble if you could and go and subscribe over there because we actually get paid for those. Okay, this next story is I'm just going to leave it with something to chew on. I don't even need to comment on it because I'm sure you know. Virgin Islands Attorney General sues JP Morgan Chase for handling Jeffrey Epstein's financial transactions after sex trafficking with his conviction for child sex trafficking. She was fired days later. Okay. Now that's really convenient. Just going after JP Morgan Chase. Okay, so you say like, all right, well maybe somebody at JP Morgan Chase pulled some strings, Clearly someone is protecting this. They don't want this them being punished for this. Okay, we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this because it gets conspiratorial. The Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands accused JP Morgan Chase and company last week of servicing the pedophile child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and helping him to illegally exploit women and minors. Days later, Albert Bryan Jr., the Democrat governor of the Virgin Islands, had her fired. How do you defend that? Honestly. Attorney General Denise George filed a lawsuit on 27th claiming that the bank should have known about prolific pedophiles' illegal activities on Little St. James Island and notified the authorities accordingly, reported the New York Times. I'm fairly certain this Attorney General is Democrat, so that makes this even more interesting. JP Morgan knowingly, negligently, and unlawfully provided and pulled the levers through which recruiters and victims were paid and was indispensable to the operation and concealment of the Epstein trafficking enterprise. I think there's a lot more to this. I think it's not just this, and I'll get into it in a second here with our final photo, but I think those in power were very worried about what would come out in this investigation regarding these payments. When you start discovery against a bank and you start pulling these documents in, I mean, there's a lot hidden in those transactions that I'm sure had people shaking in their boots. And we're never going to see Epstein's client list, let's be honest. But oh my, if you saw what was on that list, those names, I guarantee you it would shake society to its core. I'm going to leave you with this one last photo. Because it's just, it's interesting. You got to chew on it a bit. Think about it. First story, December 30th, 2022. Epstein's sex trafficking was aided by JP Morgan, a U.S. Virgin Isles lawsuit says. December 27th. Biden arrives in U.S. Virgin Isles to relax between holidays. January 2nd. Virgin Islands Attorney General loses her job days after suing JP Morgan Chase in connection with the Jeffrey Epstein probe. Nothing to see here. Nope. I'm going to leave you with that comment. I'm just going to let your imagination wander. Just chew on it a bit. Think about it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow us on Twitter at America Wake Up. And like I said previously, if you would like to support us financially, please consider going over to buymeacoffee.com/wakeup. You can buy us a cup of coffee, $5 each cup, whatever. You can subscribe. Doesn't matter. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you guys, as I said earlier. if you stayed this far, you're basically my best friend. So it's fine. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Godspeed. Stay safe. Keep around in the chamber.